Hello. Welcome
Hi.
back to another episode of Game of Tomes. The first one with our new schedule with like the actual tomes in the Game of Tomes. This is the one I think we've all been waiting for. We've been waiting to read this book for so long. We finally got to do it throughout January and February, and it is, of course, The Count of Monte Cristo. The Count of Monte Cristo.
Big boy.
Probably one of the best classics. One of my favorite classics now, for sure.
Really? I was
yeah.
wondering, how does it rank compared to War and Peace?
I think that's a very interesting question because they're so different. Like, this one is so much more of a story, I think, like a nice, general, like, entertaining story.
Mm-hmm.
While War and Peace is so... Not that this one isn't philosophical, but War and Peace is so lofty. I don't know. Which one did I like more? On an enjoyment level, The Count. Yeah, what about you?
I think War and Peace. Although I loved The Count of Monte Cristo, just War and Peace felt like life-changing. And this one, like, I loved it. It was fantastic. Again, yeah, like one of the best classics I've ever read, but it just wasn't like the same emotional impact. Okay. Anyway, so let's get into it.
Let's get into it. This whole video is going to have
excited.
massive spoilers. So, just so you know. I have a lot of questions for Carolyn looking at my notes.
Okay, I'm ready.
To just give you the most basic synopsis, we have this young, pure-hearted man. People are very jealous of his successes and of his love, his fiancée. He's just about to get married. And they kind of do him in, and he gets thrown into prison because he's wrongly accused of associating with people who associated with Napoleon. So, Carolyn, I just want to talk so bad. I want to talk so bad. Okay, so let's just start. I just want to start with, like, the revenge. If someone throws you into prison...
Oh, God.
for 14 years, and they take away your fiancé, they take away your job and your family and everything, do you take revenge?
If I was wrongly accused for the same exact reasons that Edmund was...
Yeah.
Probably. Like, honestly, I don't blame him. Like, what they did was terrible, and it was because of jealousy. They were jealous of what he had, and they wanted to take it away from him, and I think that it was so petty, but I kind of love it. Like, I'm not a petty person, and I'm just not, but, like, it was so entertaining to watch, and then thinking about it, like, if I was in that situation, and I was wrongly imprisoned for 14 years, took your fiancé away, your family is just gone, I would go through such a mental struggle like Edmund does, that I can't even, like, comprehend, but I wouldn't be surprised if I wanted to do the same thing. Would you?
I think if I came out of prison and I suddenly had, like, infinite wealth,
Okay,
would I concern myself with them? I don't know.
Yeah, okay, I didn't think of the infinite wealth part. Okay, can I change my answer slightly? So, I feel like when I was doing my research into the book after I finished, there were a lot of people talking about, or like a lot of articles that I read about results of karma. Like, hopefully, if someone does something bad against you, their life might go a certain way where they end up not being very happy or not really getting what they wanted or leading, you know, like karma kind of gets them in the end sort of thing. If you put good into the world, you will get good out of the world. If you put bad into the world, you'll get a bad outcome at some point. Also, like, did it really make Edmund happy when he got the revenge on everyone?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it kind of, like, manipulated his entire life, so I feel like he couldn't really even enjoy his freedom when it came to him. So half of me is like, oh yeah, be petty. And then another half of me is like, karma might get them in the end and be a bigger person. Because
he gets out and he does go travel the world. Like, he does go and have every single experience that, like, money can buy him. But, like, it's not enough, and he can't enjoy it, and he's so tethered to what has been done to him in the past that he just, like you said, ends up being imprisoned all over again. The revenge that each of the four men get, because there's kind of 4 people primarily who are involved in locking him up for 14 years, taking everything away from him. When he comes out of prison, his father's dead. His fiance has left him for someone else, which we'll get to that in a second, because I really want to talk to you about that part. But as for the revenge that is carried out on the 4 men, I love how it's so personal to each of them, not only in terms of like what each of the 4 men fear the most or what is like the most important to them, but also how it is an eye for an eye, how the punishment like matched the crime of how they partook in Edmund's imprisonment. Who's your favorite? Who do you think like maybe he went too far? Which one is like the best revenge? Does the revenge feel, is it a good revenge? I don't know.
So the concept of taking his fiancée, I would say Fernand and Mercedes and Albert, like their whole dynamic, and when he took revenge, so one of the notes that I made was, one of my favorite parts was every time he revealed his identity, because it was just like, you know it's him, they don't know it's him, and it finally like reveals himself, and you're like, ha ha ha, you know, like it was him the whole time, like it was just so satisfying. Anyway, so yeah, I said every time Edmund revealed his identity to the different characters felt so epic and satisfying to see their reaction. Yeah, I guess out of the 4 men, like Fernand and Mercedes were kind of the ones that I was always like super interested, the most engaged with when he had scenes with them. I mean, it's really Fernand who kind of did the final act of sending the letter and taking Mercedes from him.
I feel like the person I was the least interested in, the one I didn't really care the most about, even though he is the mastermind of the whole plot of this letter that sent Edmund to jail, is Danglars. He wants Dante's job and his income, so the Count takes his revenge by taking all of his income, by bankrupting him, and he also loses his whole family, but in the end he does forgive him because he's the only one left to forgive. And then Fernand, like we were just talking about, like you said, he's actually the one who sends the letter, actually the one who sends the death warrant and takes Mercedes. Although he doesn't really take Mercedes. Like Mercedes, after 10 years, agrees to marry him. But in the end, Mercedes leaves him. His son leaves him, who's really supposed to be Dante's son.
I know.
And Fernand takes his own life, like he took Dante's whole life away from him. So, that one... Yeah, that one I was really interested in. Albert was also such an interesting character, such a complicated character, such a cool character. The other one who could have like escaped it because Dante's kind of forgave him a little bit was Caderousse, the bystander, the coward, the person who watched it all happen, didn't do anything. And then he also fails to protect Dante's father from starvation. So then his revenge is that the Count just stands by as he is murdered by someone that Caderousse considered a son as well. The one that haunted me, the one that I think was the worst, the one that I was like, this is kind of a lot, not that maybe he doesn't deserve it, but I was like, whoa buddy, is obviously Villefort, the judge. That one I think was the most horrific revenge. That one felt,
definitely,
the outcome of that one felt the most what I thought the revenge was going to be like for everyone. Not only is he driven mad, his whole family falls apart from the inside, his career, like just everything you can imagine, every kind of like emotional and physical manipulation this guy goes through. Is that one matched to the part that he played in, I don't know, like who out of these 4 people did him the most dirty? Is it the mastermind, the one who actually turns it in, the person who stands by and doesn't save him, or the person who does have the power to save him but favored keeping secrets to protect his family name rather than letting an innocent man go?
I think out of all of them, I would say Fernand and Villefort, because, like, Fernand is the one that initially sends the letter. But Villefort, like, could help him.
Like, he is justice.
Yeah, and when he's first imprisoned, before he's moved, he could have helped him when he was communicating with him, like, you know, I have this letter, and then when Villefort found out about the association with his father, and he didn't help save Edmund.
Yeah, and I think Villefort's storyline was the one I was most interested in, with his child that he buries in the dirt when he's still alive. And like the entanglements that all of these 4 people and their families have with each other. So good.
This is such an incredible book at like the big plot twists and the big reveals, you know? Everything felt so grand and epic. A gasping book, you know? Where you would read and be like,
one of you guys asked about the Count of Monte Cristo in terms of like revenge. Did you ever find him insufferable, or were you always on his side?
There were times where I was like, you are going to such measures. Is it worth it? Not really even enjoying your freedom anymore. Something that I did really love about it was his relationship with
Morel?
Yes, helping his family. I really like, because like he does do good, and when he first like comes into his fortune, he kind of, I think like that was when he was taking a character, like his character was shifting a bit, and he was becoming like slightly insufferable, and I was like, oh no, Edmund is gonna like take a turn for the worse. I was questioning his choices sometimes, but then it's such a complex and complicated situation. You said earlier, if you put yourself in that position, like what would you do? I really have no clue what I would do. Anyway, what do you think?
I think I found him more insufferable at the beginning of the novel when he's just like, he's so pure-hearted, but he's so naive, and he's like, oh, no one could ever do me wrong, like no one would ever harm me, no one would throw me in prison. For me, I think there's a little bit of disconnect between the moment in prison where he's like, oh my god, I found out who did this to me, I'm gonna go take revenge. It didn't feel, I wanted it to feel more like on a spectrum rather than just this kind of snap, I think, because when he comes out of prison and we see him later, he's so changed. I don't think I really felt that change happen to him in the chateau, so I don't know. I think I was more frustrated that he did have all of this wealth and all of this power, and I'm like, you could go do great things, you could go do cool things, you could forgive these people, which is probably the worst punishment because you're leaving them to a life that isn't even fulfilling, or like they're, like you said, they're gonna handle themselves, something is gonna come for them, like they're not doing really anything productive in society, they're just being leeches. I think I was always on his side, but I just felt so sorry for him. His thing that he's always like when he's in his little villain era is like, oh, I'm not going to spare anyone because the sins of the father will be visited on the son. And there's a huge theme in the book of sons coming back. Sons popping out when you least expect them. Everyone is having sons. They're coming back. The return of the repressed, the return, exactly. But we kind of see that that's not really true, because I feel like the sons in the book, they are the ones who in part like are seeming to atone, or at least take some part in the justice that eventually comes around on the father. Number 1 would be Benedetto, who is the son of Villefort, but then the judge buries him because he's like, oh, he has him with the wife of the Baron, so he's like, no one can know about this, I'm just gonna kill him. But he comes back from the dead, and he's the one who ruins his whole career, and he's also the one who kills Caderousse, so who's also like a father figure to him in prison. And then Albert denounces his father, obliterates his name, refuses to take any of his fortune, and like wipes Fernand off the face of the earth. And then Eugenie as well, the daughter of the Baron, who takes on a more traditional gender role of the man in this period, refuses to save her father by marrying someone who would like save his fortune, and she's gone. She leaves.
I love that she's just like, bye.
I'm gonna go hang out with Louise forever.
And I also think so many sons that are like seeking their father's affection.
I think the only one who doesn't get that chance is little Edward, who's like kind of a brat.
Bad.
Oh.
He is kind of a brat,
but it's just like, a kid
because of his upbringing, and like he's just in a very bad situation. I really liked the dynamic. I want to talk to you about Valentine. I want to know what you thought of Valentine, and also her grandfather, her relationship with her grandfather, who like can't properly communicate, and so they communicate through other means. I found that really interesting, and especially like how marriage played a role in her life with her and Albert, and like how they just want to be together.
Wait,
but
you mean
like all this other
Morel?
Oh, Morel. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Alexander? What was his name?
Maximilian.
funny names. This is like in War and Peace where there are like 5 million people and you're like, what's their name? What did you think of that whole plot line?
Okay, so to say something nice,
oh God.
I really liked the relationship between Valentine and Valentine. No, Valentine and her grandfather. Nice, wholesome. Valentine's storyline was for me the worst. I didn't give a crap about it. I thought it was so boring.
Wow. Okay.
Every time that she was on the page and her and Morel, I was just like, oh, here we go again. Like, snooze fest. And I think it's because they just, out of everyone in the book, everyone felt so complex and so like a person. And then we would get to Valentine's chapters with Max, and I would be like, oh my God, like you guys are just stagnant pools of goodness, which is great, good for you, but you're getting trampled on by everyone around you because you're just this stereotypical, dutiful angel in the house. And so is Maximilian, for that matter. I think they're matched in that way. I don't think it's like a way that Dumas is writing women at all, which like we'll talk about because you guys were like kind of on that topic a lot, but so boring.
That's so funny. I agree with you. You know, we've talked about this a lot with books that we've read where it's like when one character's just like wholly good and they're just like a, you know, an angel. And I feel like it's when you have really complex characters that you're really like interested in them. I think I felt very sorry for her because of what her family was doing and what her father was doing and putting her in a very like unfortunate situation with trying to match her with someone that she barely knew, didn't care about. And I think I just felt really sorry for her more than anything. I
think I struggled so hard to feel sorry for her because so many times she is just like, I know what they're doing to me is wrong, but I can't upset my family. I can't do this to my father. I have to like play by these rules. You're doing this to yourself. Morel is like, let's go. We can go. And she's like, no, I have to be good. I have to be so good. And I'm like, girl, go. And we have the foil of that in Eugenie, who takes it to the extreme, and very who does go. And she doesn't even get punished for that. Like, it's great. They live happily ever after. And then at the end, though, they get to live happily ever after. But it's just, I don't know, it's not that they don't suffer, and obviously the Count is so interested in Valentine and Morel because it's him and Mercedes from way back when that he's like, oh my God, I have to like look after them. They're very much the Romeo Juliet portion of the book, literally, because she takes the poison that like, you know, makes her appear dead only to be reawakened from the tomb. I think they got the ending that I was so hoping that the Count and Mercedes were gonna get. Yeah,
I want your opinion.
Yeah.
On the ending.
Okay, let's get into it.
Okay, we're gonna jump right to that.
Let's go.
I want to talk about Mercedes. Okay. I also want to talk about Haide.
Okay, Mercedes, I think the novel, and herself as well, but I think it was way too harsh on her. I think it was very unrealistic. I think Edmund gets out of prison and he's like, oh, I'm just going to go check on my girl. Sir, it's been 14 years. And when he finds that Mercedes is gone, he quotes from Hamlet and he's like, frailty, thy name is woman. And I'm like, she waited 10 years. She waited 10 years for you to come back. Not only that, but she took care of your dad in that time when she didn't even have the means to properly take care of yourself. And like, at the end of the day, she married Fernand, but it's not because she loves him.
But didn't she think he was dead?
Exactly.
Didn't she think Edmund was dead? Yeah, so it's like, well...
Like, what are you on about?
What is she gonna do?
She doesn't really have that much of a choice. Like, yeah, she berates herself at the end of the novel, being like, why didn't I go into a convent? Why didn't I become a nun? And I'm like, well, that shouldn't be the only option for you. And it's not her fault that she married the man unknowingly that put him in prison. Yeah. So I was a little upset at Edmund for that. I was like, you're dumb. Like, 10 years is a long time to sit on a rock.
She also thought he was dead, you know? She didn't really have all the information. She didn't know what was really going on. And I think Fernand was very manipulative.
Someone asked, did you root for them to get back together?
I think a big part of me did. But I also had a feeling that they wouldn't. I was not expecting the Haide ending, which is what I want to talk to you about. Were you expecting them to get back together?
I think I knew in my heart that they wouldn't, but I did want them to. I think this could have made them a lot stronger, and I think at the end of the day, like, they still mean the most to each other. Like, she is the one who stops the whole revenge plot eventually because he still cares about her so much. I feel the most sad for her because she is completely alone at the end of the book. And she's like, oh, I've been punished. And I'm like, no.
For what?
No, you didn't do anything wrong. Yeah. Okay, but the actual ending.
Hayday's character, every time she popped up, I'm like, okay, you know.
She's cool.
She's cool. This is an interesting plot line. Okay, I don't know, like, where her character's going. And then by the end, she and Edmund become lovers. And I'm like, wait, what? I always felt like he was kind of a father figure for her. She was seen as his servant. I was just thrown for a loop. I wanted to know your opinion because I don't really know how to feel about it.
In my notes, I just wrote, what the hell? Yeah, it kind of came out of nowhere. I would have liked a lot more scenes, like, with them together, developing that. I always felt like there's a mutual respect there. She thinks very highly of him. And the ending where they end up together and they sail off with one another into the sunset.
Yeah, I was just like,
oh.
She's not Mercedes. Mercedes and Edmund have their whole lives of loving each other, and then, you know, in prison, he's like wishing for her to, you know, be there when he eventually, hopefully, is free. And also, I loved the scenes between, like, the Count of Monte Cristo and Mercedes when she knew it was Edmund, but it wasn't really spoken. Albert would always say, you know, like, my mother is so happy spending time with you, and just, like, those scenes were so incredible. And I feel like that was the build-up that we all kind of, like we said earlier, I did hope for, though I didn't think that they would end up together. But then by the end, it's just so random. Hayday and Edmund end up together.
I guess I can, like, appreciate it in the sense that it feels like he is fully moving on from the past and every relationship there. What I don't love is that, like, she's been a slave in his house for kind of, not her whole life, but her whole young life. I think the ending that I wanted that ending where he took his own life. I think that would have been so much more impactful. Ooh. I think that would have just would have been the perfect ending. I just kind of felt like Dumas was hesitating over that ending for so long. Am I really going to do this? Am I really going to end the book this way? And then I think he backed off, and I think he rewrote it, is what it feels like. I don't know, because I think after he's gone through all that revenge, and of course at the end, where he's about to starve the Baron to death, he's like, oh my god, wait, I forgive you. And then he's like, oh, is it me? Am I the problem here? Have I gone too far? Did I do too much? And he's like doubting his whole life and his whole mission, because the revenge hasn't brought him anything. It hasn't brought him peace. It's hollow. It's a bitter draft that he's drank. And he's only, like, achieved spreading more loss and pain. My battery died.
Yeah, I really don't know. But I just wasn't expecting the one that we got.
Weird. I don't know. What do you guys think? I thought it was weird.
Yes. Let us know what you think.
I thought it was a little out of left field.
Something that I wanted to talk about that we should have touched on earlier was Edmund and Abbe Faria, because I really loved their scenes together, and it was really, like, when the story was building. I think the scenes in the prison are so important to, like, who he becomes after. I just felt like when they discovered each other, they really instilled hope in each other. Even when Abbe Faria, like, dies, he still has the hope that Edmund will escape. And Abbe Faria, like, gives Edmund the fortune that no one believed that he had or that he knew of. It lets him be able to, like, live the life that he lives and to have the wealth and the means to do everything that he did. And so I just felt like I loved their scenes together and, like, how attached they were to each other, and I felt like it was the father figure that Edmund really sought for and needed at that time when he was taken away from his own father. And the scene when they toss him into the water, isn't it assumed that they would bury him? Because, you know, I think that's a genius, too, when he was like, oh, like, he'll take the place of...
Swap.
Swap lives with the dead guy. That was such an exciting scene, and I feel like that's my favorite thing about this book, was, like, how thrilling and exciting it was, and it was always keeping me on the edge of my seat. Such a gasping book.
Yeah. Yeah. In the film, Abbe is played by Dumbledore. The actor who plays Dumbledore.
No.
The first Dumbledore, who the actor passed away and then they switched Dumbledores, but it's that Dumbledore. Forget his name.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll have to watch it.
It's like perfect.
Oh my god. Okay.
This man is out here making pens.
Making everything
and paper.
out of nothing.
Seriously.
I know. I was like, wow. Very innovative.
Is this possible? Can I do this? He's compiled a list of the books that you would need to read. I think he says like 100 of them. Or is it 1,000? I think it's 100.
I think it's 100.
Of the books in the world that would give you like the most complete picture of knowledge in every subject area. And I'm just like, oh my god, I need this list. Oh, drop the list, Abbe.
Seriously.
I'm just like, would I start digging? I guess I don't have anything else to do.
Yeah, well, it reminds me of, I don't know if you've ever seen Shawshank Redemption. Have you seen that movie? Okay, not to spoil Shawshank Redemption, but there were some similarities there, and I was like, oh my god, is this like what Shawshank is based on?
Okay, someone said, talk about the shitty female characters, but then someone else said, talk about how great the depiction of women was, and then someone else was like, talk about how cool Eugenie and Louise were. So it seems like there's a very
mixed view.
I don't know, you go ahead.
I read a lot of classic literature, as I'm sure you guys know.
We've seen some
We have seen some bad stuff. I'm looking at you, Charles Dickens. But I really didn't see anything wrong with his depiction of women. He made Mercedes so good and such a strong, beautiful character. I found, like, the female characters were very interesting. Casper agrees.
I think they're great. I think they all feel distinct. I think I know who they are.
They're all very like different, too.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you said, she's a formidable mother. She loves deeply. She's also the one who had the most power to stop the revenge plot.
Yeah.
And more than that, she like identifies Edmund, knows who he is long before she ever approaches him about it. And then at the end of the novel, she's like, oh man, like I didn't stop this. I didn't tell anyone that you were out to get them. So she was really kind of the final barrier against all of this misfortune that happened, and she let it happen.
Yeah.
So she's like implicated in the revenge plot as much as he is, if not more. Madame Villefort, like you said, she's kind of like the Medea figure. She was cool. I felt like they all just have something that they deeply want and they're going for it. Like the Baron's wife, like she's playing the stock exchange. She's making her own fortune behind her husband's back. I think the only one that I wasn't thrilled about was Valentine, but I don't think that falls under the category of Dumas writing women. I think that's just kind of
her character,
the moral of the story. And besides that, her counterpart, Max, is the exact same.
Yeah.
So I didn't really have a problem with that. And even Heyday is cool. She gets her revenge on Fernand, condemns him, has this crazy moment in front of the courts. So... And not to mention the crazy lesbian escape subplot.
Oh!
I didn't know we could do that.
I know!
I didn't know we could do that in 18 whatever. I was like, Dumas, we're going there? You're taking us along for this? Fantastic. Like, fantastic. Yeah, and her speeches to her father near the end, those were some of like my favorite chapters. I was like, you're so cool. What is something you didn't like?
Ooh. I will admit there were parts where it was dragging a little bit.
Roma.
Yes. And at some points, like, I was getting slightly confused with who people were. Before it was really revealed who they were, I felt like we went from Edmund escaping to all of a sudden we're following Franz and Albert. And I'm like, wait, we're in Rome? Who are these people?
Also about Franz, he gets written out of the book.
I know.
I'm like, where'd you go? You were a cool guy. Yeah.
Guess not cool enough.
What a book.
What a book to start this year with. And we finally did it. Like, Emma, we did it.
I know. I know.
You know how long I've been wanting to read this book and been so daunted by it? And I'm so glad that we could read it together and love it together. And, like, everyone that joined in, it was just, like, extra special, you know, because it's like it's fun reading books on your own, obviously, but it just makes it even more special reading it with a big group of people.
Do you have a favorite quote?
Ooh, I wrote a few down. I really liked this one. It says, "Life is a storm. 1 minute you will bathe under the sun, and the next you will be shattered upon the rocks. That's when you shout, 'Do your worst, for I will do mine,' and you will be remembered forever." I thought that was epic. Oh, another one that I wrote down. How did I escape? With difficulty. How did I plan this moment? With pleasure.
With pleasure.
It's like,
Oh, it's so good. I love the sections where everyone in Rome thinks he's a vampire.
oh my gosh, yes.
Love those. I thought that was so fun. I like the one too where he's like, "Me? Ridiculous? Never. I would rather die." He's such a drama queen.
I just love how dramatic he is. It's just so
I
great.
love it.
It's so entertaining.
Like, I love it so much. Or what commands the Count of Monte Cristo is the Count of Monte Cristo. I do what I wish, and believe me, it is always very well done.
Oh my god. I am perfect.
You know what? You know what I can tell you? You know how I've always like bad-mouthed the Penguin cloth bounds, and I'm like, I don't like reading out of them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like whatever. I like reading out of them now.
Yay!
Yeah,
what do you like about it?
I like how, I think because when I bought it, it was so stiff.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, this is awful. But like, because it's cloth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now I can't even go on about this.
Come on, keep going.
Because it's cloth. It like it like softens as you keep going. And it becomes really floppy.
Yeah?
It becomes a lot easier to handle.
That's not any better.
Never mind. I'm just saying it kind of like ages with you, and it like it's not so hard anymore. Do you know what I mean?
I think we all know what you mean, Emma.
Yeah, so now I'm like, oh, I kind of want more cloth bounds.
Ooh.
Anyway,
I have already started Middlemarch. I am 13 chapters in. If you don't know, we have a book club on Fable now.
Oh, yes.
So if you want to join in on the discussion, you can join Fable. Maybe do you want to leave a link in the description?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Emma will leave a link in the description. And you can join us on Fable, and we have conversations during, like, each chapter is broken down. It's very cool, so. Right. Well,
all right, guys.
Emma's gonna go put her soft book on the shelf now.
Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for reading.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see you in the next one.
Ciao.
Hello. The voice shooting up 6 octaves?